Hey guys, welcome to the show. It is in fact the sunrise with your girl Sarah and Hiba. We're super excited to be here on this beautiful Wednesday morning, Hiba. And how are you? How have you been? How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Oh, me? I'm good. I've just got a touch of the tonsillitis, so
Oh no, I hope you get
yeah.
well soon. Oh, I know.
Thanks.
I like the moment you said it, I felt all of that. You know how uncomfortable you feel when you have like tonsillitis? Yeah,
It's like the
I
back of
felt
the.
that.
It's the worst. Honestly, it's the worst. It's painful. How have you been?
I've been okay as well. You know, nothing much really happens in my life. Mostly I just go home and yeah, sleep, I guess. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, we're super excited to be here, and we are going to be having a conversation on results day. You know what the future holds, right? And obviously, this is because results were released yesterday, and a lot of children were like excited, but also scared because I remember when I got my results, and it was so like scary. You know that whole experience. Well, we'll talk about all of that, but before we get into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, text us on 078 You know, share your thoughts, share your opinions with us because we would love to hear what you have to say, right? And Hiba will actually tell you ways in which you can get in touch with us through our socials. So why don't you tell everyone?
Guys, you can drop us a line on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Also, catch our show live on YouTube as well as downloading the app Relax Radio, available now on Google, Android, and the Apple Store.
Exactly. So that way you can listen in from any device from anywhere in the world. All right. That's just how simple it is. So let's actually very quickly get into the conversation because I'm actually excited for this conversation. All right. Now, yesterday was results day. And the first thing that I was thinking about, or the first thing that came to my mind when I saw the news was like, oh my gosh, just imagine waking up and finding your results. Like, how nerve wracking would that be? You know?
Yeah, I mean, results day has always been the barringer of nerves. It's always the scariest day because you're like, oh, is today the day I lose respect for myself?
Honestly, right? And like sometimes I know, especially last year, a lot of people were very disappointed with the whole algorithm they used and how a lot of their results were downgraded as well, right? So obviously when you worked for something so hard and you don't get the results you want, that in itself is very disappointing. It's saddening as well, right? So in instances like that I actually feel very sorry. And the other thing is like we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So I mean, I guess in a way there needs to be some form of leniency, if I put it that way, with the way they mark, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there have been so many barriers this year as to how students have been able to study. So I feel like they really should be given sort of like a helping hand, because they haven't had the resources that we had in school. They didn't get to go into class. They should be afforded the opportunity of having of being able to like retake their A levels if they didn't achieve the results they wanted. And really, yeah, I think it's yeah, they've had an unfair shot this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree to that as well. Now, however, with regard to, everything we discussed right now, how we all had a tough year and things were really hard, not just for, these children, but even for teachers, because, trying to teach them through the internet is definitely much harder than teaching
Yeah.
them in class, right?
Yeah.
So with all of these difficulties, they've still managed to do an absolutely amazing job, right? Because in comparison to last year, there's actually 45%, or rather nearly 45% of students who've actually gotten A or A star results. So in terms of their experience, I think they're pretty resilient, and I think they deserve these amazing results that they have, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, let's talk about the fact that um, inner city school children be out eaten. I mean, one of the most elite private schools in terms of Oxford admissions, which is honestly one of the most amazing things I've ever had because now we've got like opportunities for everyone. Like
Yeah.
there is really a lacking of discrimination around the whole higher education level now.
Yeah, exactly. And to actually look a little bit, to actually look back at last year, actually a little bit. Now, last year, the proportion of candidates or children actually who got A's were actually about 39%, right? And in comparison to last year, this year you actually have a much higher significant, or rather, much higher percentage of children that are actually that have gotten A's. So, in terms of university admissions, do you think it's going to be a problem? Because we have this whole problem of, oh, what, if you give children good grades, universities are going to get overcrowded. They're not possibly going to be able to allocate all of these students into their courses. Do you think it's going to be too much of an issue right now?
I don't know if I have an answer that for that, because on the one hand, how could it be, just like disadvantageous for students to be seeking one, like, the best education that they can in terms of university.
Yeah.
However, there is also that, what if everyone doesn't get the placement that they want? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean for the people who are like going away for university, and they find out that, oh, your course isn't available? What happens then? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I understand as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these universities can only allocate a certain amount of children as well, right? No matter how much money you pay them or whatnot. Again, there's only a specific amount of, like, the intake is only limited, right?
Yeah.
So I guess in terms of that, I was actually reading up a bunch of articles that I found yesterday, and apparently from what I read, actually they've increased the intake this year, because last year there was actually about 365,000 intake, the children that were intaken, right, were taken in rather. But this year, there was actually a record 395,770 students that have been accepted to their first time full undergraduate course. So I guess in that way we're actually having some form of improvement, and given the fact that most of these lessons happen online as well, I think it's manageable, right? um yeah, however, we're going to head into a small break now, and after that we will be back to keep talking more about this. So until then, make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is, we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education, or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account. And then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different, right? they range differently from everyone, but it and from country to country. To be fair, different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies and then you step up into different things.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah and Hiba, and we're here to have an absolutely amazing and interesting conversation, aren't we, Hiba?
Yes, we are. And if you guys want to get involved, don't forget to drop us a line on 078
Yeah, we're very, very excited to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions about whatever it is that you have to say, because that will be absolutely amazing. If you or someone who got your results as well, let us know what you are thinking. All right. And also, if you want to, if you want to stay updated about the things we talk about, well, you can actually go follow us on our socials. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And actually make sure that you're always updated about the very latest we talk about. And don't forget to download our app either, because our app is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, so you can listen in from any device from anywhere in the world. All right. And now let's actually head back into our conversation about Result Day and what the future holds. Yeah.
So,
No, go ahead.
So I just wanted to know, 45% of students have gotten A stars and A levels, and we've got a record number of higher university admissions. But what do you think that means in terms of education? Do you think that students thrived more so in lockdown than they did in actual classrooms with actual teachers?
Well, to be quite honest with you, in my opinion, I feel like all that time you spend at home, you actually utilized it much better than actually when you would have gone to school and spent time, right? Because look, I also had to study during during the lockdown and whatnot.
Yeah.
So during that time, I actually felt like I was much better studying at home rather than actually going to school and learning, because that even the time you take to travel to come back home after school, obviously you can't just suddenly come back home after school and study, right? I mean, you need to take a little bit of a break before you do that. So all of the time that is lost when you're constantly traveling back and forth between school and home and whatnot, that actually was you could make use of all of that time when you were stuck at home, right? Because you basically didn't have anything else to do than just study. So in my opinion, I feel like that's why they have done a better job, because they actually have that time to utilize and use it to study for their exams.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you in that, I was traveling to uni. It took me like 2 hours a day to travel to uni and then an hour back. And it's just really, you've got more time to not only just focus on your studies, but also you've got more one-to-one time with your teacher. You
Yeah.
finally have you're not sharing the class, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Which is helpful in a lot of aspects, because I don't want to be
Honestly.
sat there and have a teacher hovering over me when I know that I can ask for help when I need it. What was that?
Yeah. Yeah, and like something else is when you are in school and you're physically in the class, there is so much of disturbances, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so many disturbances when you're studying. You have like the bunch of people who will never ever pay attention during class, or like always talking, and they really just don't care about their education, right? Because there's always that one group of people who are always like that, and they tend to be the loudest in the class while the rest of us are trying to study. And I'm just like, bro, some of us really would just want to study, so maybe like quieten down a bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely. And sorry,
yeah.
one more thing. It was always in A level that those people really thrived in chaos.
Honestly, right? It was
'Cause
like so annoying.
they had that.
But
It was the stereotypical people with the giant jackets and the massive hoodies for no reason.
Honestly, so I feel like with online lessons, what has actually happened was that we kind of got to, because everyone was pretty much on mute, like you literally
Yeah.
had to mute unless you had a question to ask or, you had something to clarify. So because of that, I feel like people have actually had the opportunity to learn and focus better because you don't have all of those other distractions that you have while you're in school, right? However, at the same time, there's also been a few disadvantages. Like, for example, when you keep staring into your computer screen for hours, you're actually going to get really bored, right? And at one point, your brain is really not just going to absorb any information at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's like burnout. Like you're like sitting there all day. It's like over and over again. You have the opportunity now in like during lockdown to like take a pause from all that, but in school you really didn't get that option, like without skipping a class, I would say. But in terms of like, it's not just that though, like staring at a screen all day also just damages your mental health in total. It was I think lockdown was really, when it came to student mental health, it was really a massive topic because it just was completely on the decline. And I personally feel
Yeah.
like that was because, we didn't get the human to human contact that we did back in
Yeah.
back in
That before
back in
lockdown.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that is what we're talking about, but make sure you stay tuned because we're going to head into a small break right now. And after that, we will be back to keep talking about, university and whether we should have a discount for online university education. All right. So make sure you stay tuned because we're going to head into a small break right now.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for?